Hi folks, this is GM Nicholas once again from the Alternative RPG Club. And as you probably already know, there is a GM Day sale going on DriveThruRPG. And I just wanted to make this quick video to show what some of my top picks are for the sale. Now, there's going to be a lot of good RPGs on sale, but what I'm really focusing on, at least on this list, is the value that you're going to get. So I want to feature games that are at least $10 off. And do take note that the prices are in Aussie dollar because it's the closest currency to my home country's currency. So that's why I set it to Aussie dollar. But as you can see, the discounts are still quite substantial. But anyway, without further ado, here are some of my top picks. First of all is Worlds Without Number. So this is a great book if you're just looking for tables even. There's a lot of great resources here for fantasy type adventures. I haven't actually run this system at all, but honestly the value for me in this title is just the tables and the amount of random generated stuff you can kind of get from here. There's also some really good guidelines on how to create adventures or encounters in this book. So very valuable for any GM who wants to run fantasy games, especially ones that count on tables a lot. So that's number one, and it's almost 50% off. So Worlds Without Number, there are a couple other variations. I think it's Stars Without Number and Cities Without Number. Cities Without Number is also on sale, but the discounts you're gonna get are not as great as Worlds Without Number. And I believe Stars Without Number isn't on sale for some reason. So there you go. That's number one. By the way, these aren't in any particular order. It's just, when I saw them and clicked them and the sale was good, I just opened that window. All right, the second one is the One Ring. So again, this is a free league RPG. It's really cool. I've run it maybe just a couple of times only. It does there are a lot of rules in this game, but at the same time they are quite simple to grasp and they're not too overly complex. And I like the fact that in this game, even though it's kind of like fantasy and you are pretty strong as a character, there are mechanics in place to highlight roleplay. So there is like a roleplay combat mode kind of thing, which is very cool. And it kind of the mechanics inform the players that hey, this is a way you can kind of solve the problem politically rather than I hit things, and all my entire character build is about hitting things. So that's why I like this RPG quite a lot. Also, you get to roll quite a few dice in this game, which I like. Most players, more dice means more fun. So that's the One Ring RPG. Next is one of my favorite RPGs, the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Core Rulebook. So this is a pretty substantial discount, and as you can see, there's a lot of other Warhammer stuff that's on sale. But this RPG is a revised classic from second edition. I've actually never played second edition, but fourth edition wise, I think just the flavor. If you are a fan of Warhammer or dark fantasy in general, I think this book has a lot of good ideas that you can kind of import into your game. I wouldn't recommend running this as a very combat heavy game because it can get very unbalanced, and if your players know how to kind of game the system, it becomes very easy for them. So this one's really for players who are more into immersing themselves into the setting, and if you are doing that, you're gonna have a great time with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Not for your optimizers though, because they will cream every single encounter. Next, also one of my top favorite games, Delta Green, the role-playing game. This one's a bundle, so you get the GM's book as well as the player's book. So it's called I believe it's called the Handler's Guide and the Agent's Handbook. So again, no brainer. It's a pretty big discount. So I think if ever been interested in a system like this, now's the time to kind of jump in. What can I say about this system? I really like it. I like it more than Call of Cthulhu because there are rules about psychology and they are more fleshed out than Call of Cthulhu. There are also bonds in this game which you form with other NPCs like your family or whatnot, and you can kind of project some of your insanity through the adventures on them, and it creates like a really cool narrative, downhill spiral kind of narrative you see in a lot of detective shows and movies and things like that. So I love this game. Goodbye. Next, again, is a One Ring again, but actually, I think this is more general. A lot of the Free League Publishing starter sets are on a pretty good sale, so I think it's a good time to pick a lot of these systems up. I believe the discounts for these might be greater, just to encourage people to try different games and stuff like that. The other one I would also recommend is Alien, Forbidden Lands, Symbaroum. I believe there might be a starter set that's on sale as well, but as well as the latest Walking Dead RPG from Free League. But if I were to choose a single starter set to get, I think I would go with the One Ring because there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Speaking of, yeah, the Alien RPG starter set. There's a really cool adventure in this Alien RPG starter set, which I feel like it's very worth playing. It's kind of like Among Us, where you are on this, you're exploring this ship, but you can't really trust any of your other fellow PCs because they all have an agenda, and you're trying to figure things out as you go along. It's a really fun game to play. It's a very fun scenario to kind of walk through with your players as well, especially those who are into scheming and elaborate plans and things like that. It's really fun, and the system is not difficult. It's a D6 system mostly, and yeah, I don't know what to say without taking another 20 minutes to talk about it. So there you go, Alien RPG starter set. Probably go get it. It's good. Next is Delta Green Impossible Landscapes. So this is a pretty well-known long campaign for Delta Green, and it is again pretty big in terms of its discount right now. I haven't played it through myself, but it's a good pickup if you're looking for like a long haul psychological torture kind of game. It's not as bad as it sounds, I swear. Well, I wouldn't know for sure because I haven't run it myself, but that's part of the fun, right? Where you psychologically torture your own character in Delta Green. But yeah, that's Delta Green Impossible Landscapes. Next is the Dread Thingamicon. So the discounts here are not fantastic. I think for some reason it has switched to US dollars, so as well as the previous tab I opened, but now it's US dollar, but it's a sizable chunk in my currency. It's great. It's a table, basically, it's a book full of tables essentially where you can randomly generate encounter ideas, locations, features, and things like that. I love these kinds of books because they're system agnostic. I can throw it into essentially any kind of fantasy RPG and it works. And I feel like I get most bang for my buck for this kind of books where I can use for any RPG anytime I want. So yeah, Dread Thingamicon, highly recommend it. Let's see if I can open a preview to show you guys what's in here. Got some art, and yeah, let's just look at the contents, right? You can find generators for a laboratory, necropolis, archives, castles, caverns, anything you want. You can probably find it in this book, and it's huge. Just look at how many pages it is. I think maybe, oh, just under 500 pages. So there you go. A lot of choice and options here that you can kind of run through. All right. Now, this one's going to be surprising for some people, but the Vault 5e Uncharted Journeys. So, I recommend this because there are some very interesting rules in this supplement by Cubicle 7. So, if you don't recognize Cubicle 7, they are also the people who are in charge of Warhammer Fantasy and the other Warhammer RPG games. Their books are usually quite good, so which kind of made me want to try out this particular book as well. And just looking through some of the traversal rules and things like that, there are some really interesting ideas in here that you can translate not just to a D&D 5e game, but any other fantasy RPG game. Like I mentioned, I think the books that give you the most value are the ones that have concepts that you can carry over to a lot of different games. And I think Uncharted Journeys is one of those books. It's really cool. So do check it out if you're looking for more substantial travel rules. See if we can turn it up again to show you what's inside. But yeah, like I said, there are some rules here for exploring where each person, each PC will kind of play a different part in the traveling experience, and then there are rules for it. There are also generators for different locations and things like that. So again, these I can use for any RPG, which is great. Next in the list is Cypher, the rule system. The discount is quite steep, and it's a system that a lot of players have actually asked me to look into, which I haven't as of yet. But it's a setting agnostic system, so you can kind of run anything from like say superheroes to more Call of Cthulhu-esque adventures to sci-fi. Pretty interesting. I think definitely I'm gonna take this opportunity to dive into this and, oblige some of my customers and my players who have been begging me to run this system. So there we go. Into the Weird and Wild. This one is another book full of generators, and it's, I think, also a bestiary where you can find a lot of cool things. There's no preview here that I can show you, but really cool again, very cool resource book for you to pull from and put into any other fantasy RPG that you have. Again, there are some big wilderness and travel survival rules. If you think that whatever Untold Adventures, the last one from Cubicle 7, maybe that is a little bit too rules heavy. I think this one has more stripped down rules for travel that you can incorporate. There are some cool rules about moon cycles as well. The monsters are very flavorful, very gruesome. They are not really tuned for 5e though. I believe this is more for OSE and some of the OSR games. So you won't find monsters with a ton of abilities and things like that. But you know, I guess you can kind of get a general idea of what this monster feels like and add whatever abilities you have if you're running a 5e game or a Pathfinder game or whatever it is. But yeah, highly recommend it. I think this is a very cool addition to your collection if you are looking for something like it. Next, another Delta Green. I know I'm cheating a little bit by putting so many Delta Green books, but I love Delta Green so much. Control Group is actually one of my favorite books from Delta Green. It's actually a collection of five, I think it's five or six. One, two, three, four, five. I'm not sure if this is the one, but it's a collection of adventures that are pretty short, so most of them can be completed within one session or two sessions ish. So it's a good way to it's a good book to kind of get next to the bundle with the handler and the agent's handbook. So this one is more for GMs who feel like your players might not be ready for such a big campaign, like Impossible Landscapes. Something like this will be a good kind of starting point, and there are a few adventures that you can choose from, and they're all pretty interesting and pretty fun to play through with very different feeling settings and adventure types. So I really like this book a lot. Next we have Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition, another really epic adventure book. So this one is The Enemy Within. I think some of the more old school players within your group will understand what this campaign means to a lot of people. It's one of the most classic campaigns in all of TTRPG history, and some claim that it is the best campaign ever written or one of the best campaigns ever written. So I haven't had the pleasure to run this yet. I really want to. I've read through the book, and it's a very fun adventure that I can't wait to run for the right group. However, a lot of people have some preconceptions about Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, especially people who only know Warhammer for the wargaming side. So it's quite hard to sell the system, at least locally in my context. But yeah, fantastic game, fantastic campaign. Do get it if you are looking for something cool. Next, we have the 7C core rulebook. This one is a little bit controversial, but I feel like the discount is steep enough that you can consider it. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of the 7C second edition. This is the second edition, I think. The new edition, the John Wick edition. I think the rules are very heavy on the GM side in terms of you need to come up with a lot of things on the fly that are not necessarily super easy. Let's say if you need to swing from one rooftop to another, there needs to be all these obstacles that you make up in between just because of the way how the narrative system works, and it can feel very shoved in, like all these obstacles, and feel very unnatural, and it's a lot of load on the GM's side, especially if your players are not that creative, and they don't add, and they tend to defer to the GM to add a lot of details into the scene. This is just not a good system for that. However, it is one of my favorite settings. It's so interesting. It's kind of like a little bit like Warhammer Fantasy in a sense where a lot of the different nations and stuff like that are mirrored to our real world. So Albion, like England has all the knights and chivalry stuff. Um, and actually, the one I remember the most is Germany. I forgot what the country is called in the game, but essentially, it's kind of like a landlocked country where there is a demonic war going on, and because of this demonic war, that German country is kind of splintered into different provinces where different warlords are trying to vie for power and also to survive this demonic invasion, which is pretty cool. And there are a lot of very unique classes and magic styles in this game. I really like it, and it has like a good pirate theme and everything like that. But I believe this system is more. Sorry, not this system, but this setting is more than just the pirate stuff, because all the nations and all the political stuff that's detailed in this book is so very interesting, and highly recommend it for anyone who's looking for a fantasy setting with a little bit of a twist. And also the other twist is that you need to translate all of this to whatever system you're running, which will be quite a task. So there you go. Maybe something simpler like Fate might work for this, or maybe Cypher, I'm not sure. But yeah, once I try and figure out Cypher, maybe I can kind of translate this to Cypher. Lastly, we have the Malice Monstrorum. I think I pronounced that right. I don't know. But essentially, it is a Pokedex or bestiary of Call of Cthulhu monsters and what they do and cool stuff that you can throw at your players. This is 2 volumes, so volume 1 and volume 2. So you're gonna get quite a bit of content for the cost, and it's quite heavily discounted. So yeah, that's why I recommended it as well. So those are my top, I think, 15 picks. And yeah, leave down in the comments below if there's anything you think other GMs might be interested in. Or I realize that a lot of my picks are from DriveThruRPG. I'm not sure if other websites might be doing their own sales. So I've checked Cubicle 7, I've checked Paizo, and I've checked Free League. Though they don't seem to be doing any particular GM Day sales as of yet. Don't know whether that might change, because GM Day is technically on the 4th. So might happen then or not. But yeah, if you have any other recommendations and things like that, do leave them in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.